Yesterday, we had a massive announcement from the government as to what they're going to do with the borders going forward. One moment. That is better. It is 5:30 p.m. here on Thursday, 25 November 2021. Sorry, it's gone by, this year has. My name is Aaron Hunt. I'm a partner here at the law firm Stace Hammond. We're here at the immigration team. As always, this is not legal advice. This is just our commentary on immigration here in New Zealand. If you're looking for legal advice, please get in contact at the address in the description down below. This was not going to be a video about the 21 one-off residence visa, which has us so busy at the moment. So we probably have capacity for one or two more of you if you are looking for assistance with your phase 1 applications on 1 December next week. It was going to be solely about the border announcements announced yesterday, the border changes announced yesterday, so to speak. However, as those of you will know if you've watched these videos before, INZ has an uncanny way of releasing new information while I am recording a video. So as I was just done to write actually the line solely about the border, we got an email from Immigration New Zealand with some important news, and we've since then had more emails rolling through in the hour after that. So this video will have two parts. The first will be about the 21 RV updates. The second will be about the border changes and what it means for those of you who are onshore and those who are offshore. And it isn't what many advisors or the media seem to be saying. Okay, the news today, first of all, is regarding the extension of visas for those who are applying for the 21 RV. There was an email for those of you who have an SMC or a skilled migrant category application or a residence from work application, which you will have gotten as well, or your lawyer or advisor will have got and should be forwarding it through to you, as I've received a number of them in my box this afternoon. This is a new visa, this 2021 interim visa. This will be a 12-month interim visa granted to those who have applied for the 21 RV to allow you to continue to work or be in New Zealand or study or whatever situation you are in. And here is how it's going to work. If you have a 21 RV application and your visa is going to expire within the next 7 days, they will automatically process a 21 interim visa for you. It will come into effect the day after your current visa expires, so that you're always here in New Zealand lawfully, and they will send you an e-visa to cover those conditions. Will have the same conditions as your current visa, so a right to work for workers, a right to stay for visitors. If you are on a student visa, then you will receive an open student visa, allowing you to study at any program, at any institution, at any location in New Zealand. Those of you who are on a work visa tied to an employer, then you'll continue to be tied to that employer for that interim visa. And those of you who are on an open work visa will get an open work visa as conditions. It will last 12 months or until your 21 RV is granted, declined or withdrawn. Now, if you do have a declined or withdrawn application, then you will have 2 months after that decline or withdraw before the visa expires. It won't last the full 12 months. You'll have 2 months from that point. You can, of course, choose to still apply for another visa if you prefer. If the conditions don't suit you, such as you wanted to go and study rather than work, then you can go and apply for another visa, say a student visa in that situation. You don't need to wait for the interim visa. However, I-2-1010, which is part of the changes we received today. Now, whenever we refer to a letter then a number, we're referring to the operational manual, which is basically the rule book for immigration. So I-2-1010 is the interim visa section of the rules. And you won't see this here. It's Amendment Circular 55 for 2021. It won't be available online yet, but it will be available in the next few days. But what I-2-1010 states is that the holder of an interim visa may not apply for any visa while the interim visa, sorry, it's going off my screen here, while the interim visa is current. Now, this is a problem because it means that you cannot apply for any visa while you're on this interim visa. So if you want to go to another visa, say go to a student visa rather than a work visa, you need to apply for that prior to your current visa expiring. Otherwise, it looks like you will be stuck on the interim visa with those conditions. There is also actually a note below that in that same section that should the residence visa application be declined or withdrawn, then the applicants will not be able to apply for any other visa. So if you withdraw your 21RV when you're on the interim visa, it says you have no other options to apply for anything else without waiting to become unlawful to apply. That just doesn't seem right, and we're going to be questioning that because that just doesn't seem correct. It looks like they've copied across the older interim visa conditions from other visas, which don't quite fit into the scenario when you're applying for a residence visa. You're going to be tied to that conditions for up to a year. And if you withdraw for whatever reason, you're then stuck without a visa whatsoever. So we're going to look into that and we'll come back to you with clarifications there. Now, the second thing on the 21RV we wanted to discuss was another piece of misinformation that we have been asked about. In the past 2 months, we've had a number of times, both directly and online, we've been asked to confirm or deny things that others have said. We've covered people who have said that partners under an SMC or reason from work can't be the main applicant for this. We covered that, we dispelled that, we confirmed that that is not the case, that they can be included. We've covered someone who wanted to apply more requirements to the settlement criteria on the basis that they didn't seem to think that people deserved it because the rules are so simple. They're like, well, that can't be right. That person was here years ago, or that person wasn't here for on the right visa. These are all not requirements. We disproved that. We confirmed the actual way it's supposed to be read. We've done in previous videos that two-step rule. Today we had a new one. Someone provided us with a statement made by an advisor that applicants who apply for 21RV based on being a partner, so that they were the partner under the SMC or the residence from work application, could apply in phase 1, which we've covered before and said before we got that sorted out. Would have to pay the Immigration New Zealand fees as they couldn't have the fee transferred from the SMC RFW. Now, those of you watching these videos or been looking online will know that if you apply if you have an SMC application or registered work application, you've paid a fee, an application fee there. When you get to the AIP, the equivalent principal stage on this new application, immigration will sort of give you a direction to move that fee across or how to do it so that you should sort of use that fee for this application rather than paying a whole new fee. Now, to say that you could, as the partner under an SMC, apply here, but that you couldn't make use of that fee despite yourself and the other person in your partnership also being included here, just didn't make sense to us. It just seemed wrong, as the 21RV application in phase 1 is being made based on that SMC RFW application previously. And you can only have one 21RV application for each of those SMC RFW applications before. So it would seem cruel to allow someone to apply, but not use the fee that they and their partner have already paid just because it was their partner who was the principal applicant on the earlier application. So we went to one of the brilliant INZ managers that we go to with these sorts of questions just to confirm whether we were correct in our interpretation or whether there was this strange situation. And the manager did confirm that the fee will be transferred across, will be partially refunded if it's SMC, or you need to pay the extra if it's an RFW application because of the different fee amounts. It doesn't matter who the principal applicant is, that if you were the partner under SMC and you're the one who's applying here, and of course your partner, no partners in both applications, it doesn't matter that you've changed to who's making the application here, the fee can be transferred across. So if you've heard that from an advisor, and I saw someone message me today with what someone had said, Immigration New Zealand have confirmed that is not the case, and it makes sense. In both situations, you've got the same couple who are applying. They've paid a fee here. Now, husband and wife, no matter which one of them applies, they've paid together. Here, they're both applying again. They've paid together. Well, they've already paid, transfer it across. They're still that couple. So that is Immigration New Zealand have confirmed that we are correct on that. So great news for those of you in that situation. Now, also released today is a document list that INZ had provided which has what we expected, what they were sort of looking for. It provides, you know, the passport, the birth certificate, that sort of stuff. The one thing that was interesting here was that it looks like partners who have a visa under partnership won't be asked to provide evidence of their relationship, no matter how long ago that visa may have been granted, which could have been several years. Now, typically this is, for those of you who applied for a partnership visa, you'll know that if there's a several month gap, immigration go, hey, it's been a couple of months since we last talked to you or you applied, provide more evidence. And it's always that ongoing thing of, it's been a few more months, provide more evidence. The approach here seems to be now, actually, you've got a partnership visa, you've had one previously, that's what you're currently on. We're going to trust that that partnership is still genuine, still stable, still living together, or possibly not if you are separated, which is fantastic news for those who are separated, but also because it just removes another hurdle, another set of hoops to jump through. It is unusual. It's definitely another huge change we've never seen before in a visa application or a process for immigration, but it is what they have stated in this list here. So we're going to, of course, follow what they've said. We're going to be cautious, and we'll see how they handle it, but this is what they have said, so we have to, go with what their wording states. Their wording states that you have a partnership visa, they're not going to ask you to provide evidence of your relationship, which is, we expect there'll be an allowance for them to ask for evidence if they have a reason to believe their relationship has come to an end. But yeah, I suppose this is the way that you get through applications quickly. You sort of removed all these hurdles and these hoops to jump through, so it's great. And finally, another email arrived just as I was finishing writing this little script with the changes to the operational manual, which I've mentioned already. Now, we have stated several times that there was no indication that INZ will be providing priorities to some the applications over others, other than, of course, those who apply in phase 1 versus those who apply in phase 2. That in itself creates priority for phase 1. Mention of priorities was made at a recent webinar held by Immigration New Zealand. And they had people saying that the mention of priorities meant that they were going to bring through priorities to prioritise some applications over some others, so that if you applied with phase 1, perhaps if you were this, then that you would go first before they went because of some sort of system. We didn't quite believe that, and I think I said that in a previous video, that we saw the mention of priorities is a reference to the A16 priority list. And the A16 priority list is a list of what visas Immigration New Zealand can and can't prioritise. So the priority ones, process. So the priority 1 list under A16, and the first priority is the one they're processing currently. The second priority ones are the ones that aren't getting processed with the border being closed. It's their way to sort of divide them apart. And then today we got the update to the A16 first priority list, where the 21RV visa is now the first thing on that list of priorities. It does mention in that A16 change that priority will be given to applications lodged for 21RV before 1 March, where it meets the requirements for lodging before 1 March, which makes sense. It actually states that you must have applied before 1 March, and you must have an SMC application, or all those various things, which is a requirement for a application in phase 1. It does state that further prioritization criteria will apply within each of the categories, but isn't clear as to what that's going to be. So for now, we're going to say there's no indication of any real priorities provided within each of the phases. You have phase 1, you have phase 2, and it will generally, from what we've seen so far, be based on who applies when. But there is an allowance there for them to create some priority in the processing of it. So we'll see how we go with that. We expect that perhaps they're going to create some priority perhaps in phase 2, just to get some through quicker and then spend their time on doing other ones. Or it could basically be just down to who applies first, first and best dressed, as one of my clients said to me recently. So that is covering the 21RV changes. Now looking at the actually original topic for this video, which of course was the border control changes that were announced yesterday with several key dates. Now, we'll link to the press release in the description down below so you can go and see it. We're only going to cover a couple of points there, but there's a lot more information in that press release. We are going to warn people to be cautious as to how people have been presenting this information. Now, the media hasn't done the best job in presenting it correctly. We read a paper this morning, we won't say which one, and it wasn't clear to the point of possibly misleading. Whoever wrote the blurb and did the graphics didn't understand immigration, so it wasn't really that clear. We've also heard some immigration experts experts in quotation marks, because I don't think they are experts, saying that they can get workers into New Zealand in February, and others saying that the border is opening in February. Now, they probably can't get them into February because that's just not how it works, and it definitely isn't opening in February. We're going to go through those dates now to so we can show you actually what was said in the release yesterday and in the provided by the Beehive. So from now, the timings they're giving a day, and they're giving the day at 11:59 p.m. Basically means that day at 1 minute to midnight. So I'm going to give you the days that actually follow that day, because it's actually the following day. You know, if I say 16 Jan at 1 minute to midnight, effectively it means 17 January. So from 17 January 2022, fully vaccinated Kiwis and other eligible travellers can travel to New Zealand from Australia without MIQ. Now, other eligible travellers isn't defined for what we are. What we see it most likely as those who have a right to travel to New Zealand from Australia. That's probably what they're going to mean. So those who have a visa to travel that travel. So this is a return of the bubble with Australia, but sort of requiring full vaccinations and removing that MIQ requirement. Now, from 14 February, Valentine's Day 2020, fully vaccinated Kiwis and other eligible travellers, there's that term again, can travel to New Zealand from all other countries except for those that are deemed very high risk. It doesn't state without MIQ in the actual press release, but we expect that that was what they actually meant to put in there. I think that's just a mistake there. As otherwise, without saying without MIQ, it really makes no sense, as Kiwis can already travel home from those countries. So that announcement without saying without MIQ has no purpose. So it's got to be without MIQ. So basically from 14 February, fully vaccinated Kiwis and other eligible travellers don't need to do MIQ on arrival into New Zealand. Now, in this case here, other eligible travellers will likely be, our expectation is those who have a visa to come in. So it will be those who have a border exception or a visa that allows entry under the Y330 requirements. In operational manual, we covered those in the previous video. We touched on the previous video. Go look at that and you'll see a link as to what they are. Now, this is not opening the border. This is not saying we're going to grant visas, not saying that anyone with a visa can enter the country. It's saying that those who can enter the country currently under the current rules can do so without MIQ if they are fully vaccinated. Anybody who says that they're opening the border is just ignoring actually the following line. That's the crazy thing, when the guys who are saying February we're opening the border are ignoring the following line about April. So from 30th of April, this is the third line, 30 April 2022, it doesn't say what time of the day, so we're going to state that day. All fully vaccinated individuals will be able to travel to New Zealand with the opening staged over time. Now, again, it's going to, when it says all, it actually means all who have a visa. I think this is when we're going to start seeing the border actually opening to those who have a post-study work visa who are offshore, or essential skills work visa. This will be the point where they will start saying, okay, this group can start coming in. Now, it is saying staged over time. We've seen this for the last year, that they're going to do a staged opening of the border. It won't be on a day. Borders are open, in come, in you come, because the infrastructure just won't handle that sort of situation. So they are going to do a stage at a time. They're not saying how they're going to stage it, but that will be the point where we start seeing those who have been prevented from entering the country being able to come in. So 30 April 2022. Now, but even then, it really isn't sort of reopening the border as it says it will be done in stages. What they still haven't sort of gone into yet is how it's going to be done. Now, I had a discussion last night with an actual immigration expert, someone who I talk to frequently with, and we sort of compare notes. And we agree there's a lot of legislation that we need to look at to get a better understanding as to how this is going to work, because right now it is very much easy to say border is closed, border is open, but saying border is open in a certain way is a bit more complicated if you sort of go through and read the rules and regulations. It may mean that visa applications can be made from that date. So 30 April 2022, they may say, okay, you can apply for visas from this date, or they may be able to open them earlier. Now, those of you who've watched the videos before know that the visas can't be granted currently because the Immigration Act says you can't grant a visa that cannot be used. But what if they started saying, okay, we're going to open these applications, but we're going to have it so that you can only enter the country from that date, 30 April, or it could be perhaps, 30 May, or when they're staggering it open. So they may start perhaps doing visas prior to that date with a visa start date of a later date. These are options they have there. Right now, it just doesn't really say. So we are sort of making assumptions as to how they could do it in multiple different ways without actually saying how it's going to work. But we can say that on 30 April, it will not be an open border. It will not be in you come. It will not be apply for any visa you want and you're going to get it. It is going to still be staged, controlled, in a way that this still takes several months to possibly get through. We may see that the first ones coming in will be those from visa waiver countries, because that's a simple one for them to come in. It could basically be 30 April, visa waiver comes in, the rest you can start applying for visas, or start granting those who have already applied and had the GDV offer for partners. So we'll have to wait and see what they're going to work from here. It is still very much, that April date is still very much just so many unknowns as to how that's going to work. There's not enough there right now to say. We're sort of just thinking of some ideas. What will be required for those travelling will be a negative pre-departure test. Now this applies for those in January, February, April going forward. So you're going to need a negative pre-departure test, proof of vaccination, declaration of travel history, a day 0, day 1 test on arrival, self-isolation for 7 days, and a final negative test before entering the community. Now, MIQ will still exist for New Zealanders or for Kiwis, citizens who are coming home who aren't vaccinated. That will likely still require MIQ for some time going forward. The government cannot tell you that you cannot come home if you're a New Zealand citizen, but they can require you to go into MIQ. For everybody else, vaccinations are going to be required. We expect there'll be no option to do MIQ instead. And we expect that Air New Zealand will actually start enforcing this, as will other airlines. So while the government can't say that Kiwis can't come home, citizens can't come home, the airlines may say themselves that they will only have passengers who are vaccinated or who have an actual exemption. And just a quick note on the exemptions, I've been speaking to some doctors on that in the last few weeks, just in regards to our staff. So actually have several top doctors on who are experts in that area. And the exemptions in New Zealand for those who want to get exemption for the COVID pass that I trialed today when I just got my hair cut, there's only about 100 people in New Zealand who will be eligible for an exemption because it requires a specific sort of allergy to a very specific compound at a certain, over a certain level, which is extremely rare. Those of you who are allergic to other things probably won't be allergic to this. So when I do say that those who have an exemption, it is going to be a very small number. And even then, they reckon that 100 people that they're estimating will go down to almost 0 because they can take other vaccines which don't have that allergen in them. So yeah, most likely it's going to basically be, if you want to fly with Air New Zealand or other airlines, you must be vaccinated, because those exemptions will likely be sort of pushed out because there's going to be ways to get past them and ways to get vaccinated. And that is, one last thing, the very high list. Now, we mentioned before that from the February 14 date, you can come from any country in the world that's not deemed very high risk. Now, currently that list is not long, but it's got a number of countries in there, including India, Pakistan, Brazil, things like that. Now, the very high risk list will be updated in early December to remove all of those countries except for Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea will remain on there for the time being due to the very low rates of vaccination in that country, which is very sad, very low rates and high rates of infection there. Otherwise, the rest, India, Fiji, Pakistan, Brazil, they are being removed from that list. Now, there's no mention there whether they're going to add European countries to that list, because right now some of them are not looking good. Netherlands is not looking good, neither a few of the other ones. Worth waiting to see whether they're going to add countries to that list. But right now, or at least from December, only Papua New Guinea will remain on that list. The rest of the countries will be removed. And that is it for today's video, longer than I had originally intended, but lots of information to get through. I do apologize if I want more detail, I wanted to get this done and get this out. I have a lot of work still to get through. I got up this morning at 4:30 this morning to get on work on client files. It's now, what, 13 and a half hours later, and I am still working, and I still have more work to do tonight. So if you do want assistance from us, please come and see us, and we'll see if we can help you out. If this video was helpful to you in any way, please like it, please subscribe it, share it with your friends. If you don't mind, please go and if you found any use in this video whatsoever, please go and leave a review for us on Google. I will put a link in the description down below. It just helps us get our word out there, helps us to help people like you to provide more information to you, to all of you, and hopefully make your immigration journey a little bit smoother. But that is it for today. Kia kaha, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.